Hi, Melanie DewBerry here. Thank you for being with me again. I so appreciate you engaging with me on Facebook and the different social media streams and following me on Twitter. It means a lot to me. I appreciate it. And if you haven't heard, my new book by Hay House has come out. It actually comes out on the 18th, but you can pre-order. They sent me my advanced copy. I'm very excited. It's called The Power of Naming: A Journey Toward Your Soul's Indigenous Nature. And it really is a book of stripping away everything that gets in the way of you knowing who you are. It is really about you learning to put down all the different mechanisms you put down in order to never compromise or negotiate your sense of self, your sense of art, or your sense of worth. The Power of Naming. I hope you pick up a copy. It would just mean wonders for me if you did that. Thank you. So today I'm going to talk on a little different subject. I'm going to talk on relationships, and which I think love is deeply spiritual, and I'm talking about love relationships. Sometimes I get invited on podcast radio shows and other kinds of shows to talk about relationships because people want to hear about how I've made my relationship work. And my relationship's not particularly stunningly different than most, but it is different in the way that it started. So I want to give you a little bit of backstory about how my relationship with my husband started. Next month, we will be married 16 years. I never have been with anybody 16 years. I've never been with anybody for more than a year and a half. So this is kind of amazing. But the way it started was I had just finished my coaching training. And this was about 1997, 98. And I had just moved back. I had left California to live in New Mexico to be near my elders, but I really decided I was a California girl. And I came back and I thought, you know what? I'm not going to believe, because I was almost 40, I'm not going to believe that I'm supposed to be alone for the rest of my life. You know, this was a period when most of my friends were saying things like, you know, I'm happy just being with me, and I don't mind being alone, and it's just, you know, this is the way it's going to be. We're not going to find men. We're getting older. And I don't have any problem. If you like being alone, great. But I just didn't want to buy into that. So I decided I was going to make my finding the right man the most important project in my life, the most important file in my entire life, right? And that's really how you have to approach anything you want really, really bad. You have to make it the most important thing on your desk. Everything else has to go. If it's your dream vision to be an entrepreneur, if you want to have babies, if you want to be an artist, and whatever it is you do, it's got to be the most important project. So I focused on that. And I really started to look at my life and the men that I had chosen over my lifetime. And my choices were inherently bad. I was just dating the same kind of man over and over again, varying slightly, but in terms of how they interacted with me, it was pretty much the same. And the last boyfriend, his name was Keith, really, I mean, he was the reason why I said, okay, you got to look at what's going on with you. Because I had lost a ton of weight. I was a runner. I was looking good, you know. And this man had been wanting to date me for 10 years. And the minute we started dating, he went to buy me clothes in my old size. You know, I brought you a present and it would be my old size, not my new size. I'd try on something cute and I'd say to him, what do you think of this skirt? It had a slit in it. And he'd say, well, it shows the good half of your leg, meaning, you know, that the cellulite wasn't showing. And, you know, he would just make comments about my body. This is the man, again, who had chased me for 10 years, right? And I didn't get it, you know, at the time, what was going on. And when we finally broke up, he cheated on me. Let me back up and say, I broke up with him and he begged me to come back to him. So I said, well, let's just spend the holidays together since our families have all these, you know, interwoven activities. And then in the new year, we'll go our separate ways. And he said, absolutely, we'll go our separate ways. And so in between that time, he cheated on me. This guy begged me. You know, you see how like I just wasn't getting it. I was just like, knock, knock, nobody's home. So I spent a year really looking inside, and I got really clear about one thing. All those men, the thing that they had in common was me. I was the common denominator. I was the common denominator. I could say whatever I wanted about those men, about them being jerks or call them names, but the truth of the matter was I had a low self-esteem. I had a sense of I wasn't worthy. It wasn't conscious. It was in my subconscious, but it's what had me say yes to these men who wanted me, but when they got me, were always in competition with me. Now, you may have some version of that. Okay, so throughout the year, I decided, okay, you're going to get clean and clear. I became a coach. I had a coach. I got clean and clear about my sense of value. And I said, I'm only going to date and ultimately marry a man who sees me as the brilliant gem that I am, regardless of what I weigh, what I look like, what education I have, whatever, how much money I have, that this man is going to love me for me, and I'm going to love him for him, and where there'll be no sense of competition. So I made that the most important project of the year. And then I got online. And this is back in the old days, folks, when getting online to find a guy was pretty new. So I got online and I told these guys, I kind of went through them. And first of all, I made a list of 21 qualities I wanted in a man. 21 qualities. And so I went through the profiles and guys were going, let's meet. And I'm like, no. And I talked to one guy and I knew within 30 seconds because I had spent a year. I knew the 21 qualities. And I'm not the Red Cross. I don't need to second guess myself and I don't need to give people second chances. So that was out. So in 30 seconds, I could hear whether the guy was right or not. And finally, I saw this profile of this guy and he was like my best friend. I was like, oh my God, this is the guy. And I look at his photo. It was the most horrendous photo I've ever seen in my life. Now, that's not fair to me to say because I didn't even have a photo up because I didn't know how to do that technology back then. But his photo was horrible. But I kept going back and reading it. And I was like, oh my God, this guy is so cool. Let me just not look at that photo because what he says is so beautiful. And so I met him. We spent the entire day together. And we talked for hours on the phone the next day. And the day after that, I was in San Diego at work. We called that our second date. And our second date, we got engaged on the phone. And we've been married, as I've told you, for 16 years. And people go, well, how did that happen? Well, like I said, first of all, I really got clear on my patterns with men. I really got clear on my sense of value in the world, not an over dramatic value like I'm a gem. It's just like, you know what? I really am. I'm a beautiful human being. There's nothing arrogant about that, and that they have to see that. And the third thing, I have to be honest, that I didn't tell you yet, is because I was a coach, I knew how to design a relationship up front. I knew that when I was going to go out with him, that we should talk about if it doesn't go well. If it does go well, what should we do? And so that was a 2-hour conversation. And so I said to him, can I do something with you? And he said, okay. And I started asking him questions. It's like, if we meet and you don't particularly like me, how do you want us to end? And he told me, and I said, okay, that sounds great. And you sound like a shy guy. So tell me, what's your worst fear about me? And he said, well, I think you'll overwhelm me. And I said, great. Well, what do you want me to do if I overwhelm you? And he said, well, I'll need you to be quiet. And I said, oh, great. What will you be responsible for? We did 2 hours of that before we even met. So we got a lot of the stuff that takes 6 months to know out of the way. And when I met him, and after talking to him on the phone, he met 20 of my 21 qualities. So I knew when I said yes to him on the phone that I was going to marry the right man. So here's my thoughts to you. Know the kind of person you want to marry. Know the kind of person you are. Be non-negotiable about that. And I don't mean having outrageously high standards, but do have a standard. Be really clear on your pattern and say no to the past if you've had bad luck with men. It's actually not bad luck, it's bad choice. And care about who you are and make sure they care about you. Those are my thoughts for loving relationships. If you've got more questions and ideas, I don't want this video to go on too long. Please do Facebook me, let me know, and I'm happy to respond to you. I'm happy to respond to you. And believe it or not, even though this book is not about relationships, it's going to help declutter a lot of the stuff that gets in the way of relationships. So it might be helpful in that sense. But do reply on Facebook. I'd love to hear your thoughts and questions. 16 years going strong. See you next time. Hey, matakiase.